I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. They've been successful in this year's primaries, but pro-life women have been around for much longer.
Historical feminism was pro-life. It certainly wanted to encourage life and women's valuation of life as well.
Many immigrants' dreams are put on hold. We'll find out why. And there are peace offerings, but this one has an added flavor: tea.
Today is to offer it in peace, and that connection for all of us here.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. The 40 Days for Life campaign got underway today. The goal is to bring an end to abortion. That campaign has drawn people from all walks of life, young and old, men and women as well. And it's pro-life women who are having a dramatic impact this year.
Well, that is right, especially in politics. You're seeing it from coast to coast, actually, from Carly Fiorina in California to Christine O'Donnell right here in Delaware. And here in New York, meantime, we got to hear from some other pro-life women just last month at an event marking the 90th anniversary of women gaining the right to vote.
What is a feminist is exactly the question of the day on this 90th anniversary of women's suffrage in America. A small group of women, as it turns out, have coalesced around the idea that it is basically abortion rights. That is central to one small group of women's definition of what feminism is. We see a reconsideration of that idea going on in the culture among women, looking at more aspects to what it means to flourish as a woman, not only beyond abortion, but in spite of the damage that abortion has done to women and children.
Do we really want to insist that because society has traditionally used women's reproductive nature to oppress and exclude women, the best answer is to deny women's right to be sexually different? I think one of my arguments from history is that historical feminism was pro-life. It certainly wanted to encourage life and women's valuation of life as well.
No one has the right to build their rights on the broken rights of other human beings. And this is something that the earliest feminists understood and embraced. Susan B. Anthony in particular saw abortion and drunkenness and men as tools of oppression for women, so she tried to vanquish both. She had a consistent view of what rights meant, and one of those was protecting the rights of the smallest human beings. And that's exactly what's happening now, is there is a return to that original idea. We're not looking at a pendulum swing, we're really looking at a return to the original roots of feminism.
There's been so far a sense that, or in the last 20 years or so, a sense that there's only one kind of feminism, that if you're pro-woman, you are pro-choice or pro-abortion, and that is a linchpin to advancing the cause of women. So we are here to offer some other possible ways of being pro-women. Real respect for women would be to really value what women value. And women value children, family life, marriage, personal relationships over material things, over success, over wealth, over prosperity, in those material terms. And so to really value women or to respect women would be to create a society or to work for a society in which those values are recognized and promoted.
It is being attempted by many of the largest newspapers to say that, and they put it in quotes, a pro-life feminist is an enemy of feminism, an enemy of women, is a setup by moneyed interests in the Republican Party. Somehow a pro-life feminist is an idiot who's being told what to say by the men in her party. But you know, the thing is, it's actually a winning position. Most people want an agenda for women's rights and equality. Most people also oppose abortion in most circumstances.
For those of you who share this perspective, I do urge you, in season and out of season, to, among your neighbors, your friends, not just in the public square, politically speaking, but in all of the areas where you hold influence, to continue to promote these, all right? To not be apologetic about them, to realize that to be pro-child, to be pro-family, is in fact to be pro-woman. Thank you very much.
Well, we have more about 40 Days for Life over on our blog. Just visit currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave. But stay where you are. We have more Current Street ahead, and when we return, we'll have the day's headlines, including reports about another possible trip for the Pope.
After visiting England and Scotland, could Benedict be headed to Ireland? We'll have that and more next.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, we hear a lot about tea parties these days, but what about a tea offering? We'll show you what it's about.
But first, let's turn to the day's headlines. The man accused of stabbing a Muslim New York City cab driver pleaded not guilty today. 21-year-old Michael Enright is charged with attempted murder as a hate crime for stabbing Ahmed Sharif after asking if the cabbie was a Muslim. Reports say Enright's lawyer contends his client is an alcoholic who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. He's being held without bond in a psychiatric hospital. Catholic leaders are looking forward to next month's synod on the Middle East and say they see it as a chance to shine some light on the problems facing Christians there. A Baghdad auxiliary bishop told Catholic News Service the synod is coming at just the right time because the Christian faithful are leaving the predominantly Muslim Middle Eastern countries. The bishop added, quote, "If we have peace and security, our people would not leave." Leaders say topics like liturgical reform, formation of religious orders, and dialogue between churches will also be on the table for discussion. The synod is scheduled for October 10th through October 24th at the Vatican. Meantime, Islam is at the center of a controversy over textbooks in Texas classrooms. Some members of the state school board say Islam is portrayed too positively, and they want that to change. But some clergy members from many different faiths are stepping in to try and stop that from happening. Karina Kling has that story.
As Texas students flip through the pages of their world history books, they get the chance to learn about different religions and how they shaped our own history. But some members of the State Board of Education's social conservative bloc say Islam is talked about more than Christianity and sometimes more favorably. They say that needs to be fixed for future books.
We have almost 100 signatures already, and that list is growing.
Clergy from different faiths came together Monday to say not so fast.
There is no anti-Christian bias in our textbook. Why are we having this conversation?
The resolution cites world history books no longer used in Texas schools, but state board rules say current books can't be criticized, and some board members say the bias toward Islam still exists in books today.
It's completely irrelevant that the board is simply saying, or the citizen, for that matter, has brought this to the board to say, board, I encourage you to tell the publishers when they adopt new textbooks to make sure they're balanced when it comes to religion.
Members of the Muslim community say it's a sad political move, piggybacking on hype surrounding the Ground Zero mosque and a pastor recently threatening to burn Qurans.
What concerns me more than anything is that education is supposed to be about the search for truth. And if we're not teaching our students about truth, then we're not really teaching them, we're just conditioning them.
But board member Pat Hardy says the truth of the matter right now needs to be focused on whether current state budget woes will even allow printing the books, among other fiscal fights, and that this latest culture clash over religion in the classroom could be completely moot.
And that is Karina Kling reporting from Austin, Texas. The State Board of Education will consider the resolution Friday. On the heels of his historic trip to the UK comes word that Pope Benedict may soon be going green. A government official in Northern Ireland said the pontiff could visit Ireland as soon as 2012. The BBC reports Northern Ireland Deputy First Minister Peter Robinson said he did not meet with Pope Benedict during his visit to the UK because of prior commitments, but he said he has reason to believe a papal visit to Ireland is in the works. The Vatican has not announced any official plans, but Pope Benedict did use his general audience to reflect on last week's UK trip. As we hear from Rome Reports, Benedict said that Christianity is alive and well in the UK.
The Pope recalled his trip to the United Kingdom during the general audience and said the old European nations are holding on to their Christian soul.
Este viaje apostólico me ha confirmado en una profunda convicción. Las antiguas naciones europeas conservan su alma cristiana. Y aunque el secularismo agresivo la amenace, la Iglesia, convencida del bien que supone, se esfuerza por mantener esta rica tradición.
Benedict XVI also recalled his meeting with victims of sexual abuse by clergy and religious.
È stato un momento intenso di commozione e di preghiera.
Benedict XVI expressed gratitude for the warm welcome of the British and said that the four-day visit marked the beginning of a new and important phase in relations between the Vatican and Britain. The Pope said his visit also served to support British Catholics, and he noted that the Christian heritage is alive and strong. At the same time, he asked them to follow the gospel in order to create a society which is more just, humane, and free. But in the United Kingdom, the Pope also addressed non-Catholics. Benedict said he wanted to establish an open dialogue and to convey the newness of the gospel.
He podido mantener diversos encuentros con las más altas autoridades políticas del país, con los parlamentarios, con los representantes de las diversas religiones, con los cristianos de otras confesiones.
Pope also recalled the beatification of Cardinal Newman as a moment of deep personal satisfaction. He noted Cardinal Newman's role in helping people to know and express the truth in charity. Before concluding the audience, Pope also spoke of the meeting of the Joint Commission for Dialogue between Catholics and Orthodox, taking place now in Vienna, where they're discussing the primacy of Rome. Benedict said that obedience to the will of Jesus and the great challenges facing Christianity must help restore union between the churches.
And you will be able to see a recap of some of NET's coverage of the UK trip coming up this weekend. All you have to do is tune in this Saturday and Sunday at 8 p.m.
Well, 8 months after a massive earthquake devastated the island nation of Haiti, one Catholic leader says the humanitarian situation there is still in an emergency phase. Archbishop Bernard Alza, the Apostolic Nuncio to Haiti, says 1 million people are still living in tents, and that number is actually on the rise. That news comes as Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop Guy Saint-Cyrique, who is a native Haitian, heads for Miami for a meeting with other Catholic leaders this week. Miami Archbishop Thomas Wensky is heading up the meeting to discuss the church's role in rebuilding Haiti. Well, on school campuses in this country, millions of students gathered around flagpoles today for the annual See You at the Pole Day of Prayer. The event is promoted as a time for students to pray for their leaders, schools, and families. See You at the Pole began back about 20 years ago in Texas, back in 1990, as a matter of fact. Now organizers say it's spread to schools around the U.S. and to more than 20 other countries. A spokesman for the National Network of Youth Ministries, which heads up the event, says it's scheduled for the beginning of the school year so Christian students can be challenged to share their faith with their friends. Well, and finally, young people from all across the globe will flock to Madrid, Spain next August for World Youth Day 2011. Well, now we have an idea of how it will sound, and we get details from Rome Reports.
This is the theme song for World Youth Day to be held in Madrid 2011. After months of anticipation, the organization involved in its preparation, called Christian Youth in Action, made the song public by publishing it on its website along with the musical score. Artist Enrique Vasquez Castro composed this soft melody, and Auxiliary Bishop of Madrid Cesar Franco wrote the lyrics, approved in May by the Vatican. There'll be two versions to the song. One is the official version, which will be this music. The other version is a pop genre to be sung by the choir of Getafe. To hear the song performed live, you'll have to wait until November 9th, when the city of Madrid celebrates Our Lady of Almudena, its feast day. The song will be performed live for the first time by the Edith Stein Choir.
Well, stay tuned. There's more currents coming up. Just ahead, is it an impossible dream? Immigrants suffer a setback in Washington.
It would be a tremendous remedy for a situation that's almost impossible for people to remediate on their own.
Welcome back. Well, with all the attention focused yesterday on the debate over Don't Ask, Don't Tell and a possible repeal, another important piece of legislation was all but overlooked. It's the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act, or the DREAM Act, if you want to use the acronym there, as many people do. That DREAM Act was attached to the defense spending bill, and as a result, it also got shot down yesterday in the Senate. Here to talk about this bill and its importance is Monsignor Ronald Marino, the Vicar for Migration for the Diocese of Brooklyn. Monsignor, thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it very much. Now, for our viewers who might not be familiar, might not know, what exactly is the DREAM Act? What would it do?
The DREAM Act would be a tremendous remedy for a situation that's almost impossible for people to remediate on their own. It would take care of the undocumented children of undocumented immigrants who were brought here as children by their parents. These are not people who snuck through the border, the kids. A family maybe has done that and brought their kids with them. But now the kids are older, and because the parents are undocumented, they're undocumented. And for them, that means a lot of things. It means they can't work. It means they can't have student aid. They're all, most of them are college age or high school age. And they can't travel outside the United States. That is to say, if they had to go home for something, they'd be locked out in the future. And the DREAM Act is a remedy for that, because, and it's not amnesty, like, okay, let's just let them all in and bless them and let them go. You know, there are conditions on the DREAM Act. For example, the child himself or herself has to be 16 years of age by now or older, so it's not somebody who came in yesterday. They have to be here 5 years at least. They have to have a high school diploma. They have to have 2 years of military or community service to do that. They have to have background checks, criminal background checks. In other words, this is not walk right in. Right. This is not just, as you said, blanket amnesty for everybody.
Exactly. This is people, they have to kind of work for this and meet those certain criteria.
Exactly.
That you're talking about.
And if any of those conditions are missing, they can't get it.
Right. So
it's not just kids that hang out on the street. They have to have a high school diploma, as I said, and all the rest of that.
Right. Now, with Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the debate on that yesterday, we were talking a little bit about the attachment of it to the Defense Appropriations Bill and saying, well, you know, that really, you know, you attach a controversial piece of legislation to the Defense Authorization Bill. Once you get closer to election time, a lot of people might do that. And there are actually a lot of articles looking around at newspapers today. Some of the headlines that we're seeing is, you know, some people blaming Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid for attaching the DREAM Act and Don't Ask, Don't Tell to the defense authorization, and then it was shot down so then he could use that politically against opponents. What do you think about attaching a bill like this to defense appropriations?
Well, unfortunately, that seems to be the way they work. That's the political solution to lots of other problems that avoids them having extenuous debates. You know, Senator Reid is up for election. The DREAM Act is a good thing, you know, and for whatever reasons or motives he may have had, he put it on something that he thought would pass, the military spending bill. And unfortunately, they also put other things there that are, I believe, far more controversial than this. To me, this is not controversial. This is pretty easy. But it got mixed in with all the rest, and politics being what it may be, you know, it got killed.
And then you ended up with, like, say, John McCain, who was one of the original co-sponsors of the bill, who ended up voting against it yesterday. And that's something, that's a tactic as well that's been used by both sides of the aisle in the past when they've had maybe some more controversial pieces of legislation. They'll attach it onto defense spending and then it passes because the defense spending bill nobody wants to vote against. You know?
And interestingly enough, when they went to the senators that were supposed to be for the DREAM Act and they said, how come you voted against it? They said, we're really for the DREAM Act, but for procedural reasons we had to vote against it.
Now, why, very quickly here before we have to go, why is this such an important piece of legislation for the people that it affects?
There really are hundreds of thousands, if not even a million or so, young people who are here and here to stay and have nothing left back in their own country to go back to. They've been away from it for years and years, who have no future unless this or something like it gets passed. These kids can't get jobs. They can't work legally. When you think of a kid who now is 18 years old and speaks English well because he's lived here all these years, looking for a job, nobody can hire him because of the law. He can't go to college because there's no student aid available to him. What kind of future is that for these people? And to say send them home, there is no home. They've been living here for years with their families.
This is kind of their home here now.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Well, it's a very difficult situation, of course, one that we hope more people hear about, the DREAM Act in the future. And, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier, it's like we wish there was the equivalent to a Lady Gaga of the DREAM Act, because, you know, she had that big rally the other day.
Right.
We need, a big nationwide spokesman for the DREAM Act as well. Maybe Monsignor Marino can do that. Go hold rallies across the country.
They'll listen to me, I'm sure.
Thank you, Monsignor, for being here.
Welcome,
we really
Matt.
appreciate it. Well, stay with us. We'll be right back. When we return, there's the tea party, and then there are tea offerings.
A lot of people have looked at the idea of how do we remedy that situation, and this is one of those ways.
Well, finally tonight, tea has been very much in the news lately. Of course, members of the Tea Party movement grabbing headlines, winning some important primaries as well. It's really kind of easy to forget that tea can be used for more than just politics and protest.
It can. Some people in Lower Manhattan hope it can also be used to help bring about peace. Last weekend, St. Peter's, a parish near Ground Zero, hosted something a bit unusual, a Japanese tea offering service as a prayer for peace.
The study of tea is the simple act of making a bowl of tea for someone to drink it. What today is to offer it in peace. And that connection for all of us here and for all of us observing is the true point of tea. Many lives were lost here, but out of that, a lot of people have looked at the idea of how do we remedy that situation, and this is one of those ways. This beautiful offering in honor of those people and in honor of us to continue this path.
Oh God, look with compassion on the whole human family and work through our struggle and confusion to accomplish your purposes on earth, that in your good time all nations and races may serve you in harmony and peace.
I am very grateful this morning to have this wonderful opportunity here in this most historical and oldest parish in New York to be able to perform this okenchashiki, the ritual tea offering. God, for example, Jesus Christ and the Buddha, the Hotoke, all of these enlightened beings are continuously giving us guidance on how we human beings should live. This morning, I offered the two bowls to God in honor of all of the victims of the tragedy that occurred here 10 years ago during the September 11th attacks. And also, it was to pray for world peace. And also that blessings may be bestowed on all of you here today.
After 9/11, we've had a number of interfaith services for peace, because I think people realize that the attacks of 9/11 were not just simply an attack on New York, United States, but also an attack upon humanity. Principles of harmony, of tranquility and peace, they are certainly compatible with Christianity. In fact, Dr. Sen has had a private audience with both Pope John Paul II and with Pope Benedict.
Only the tea master himself can perform this particular tea offering for peace. And I can say truly that it is very effective for bringing about peace, because the tea ceremony really helps one to become very peaceful in the heart.
So nice to see, and obviously 15th generation. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been doing this for a long time, and certainly a lot of preparation and knowledge goes into learning how to prepare the tea in that special way that he did, so that he could make the offering as he did.
Do it properly. And you know, tea is something that brings people together. It has for centuries, for millennia, you know. It's just a nice symbol of that, of people coming together from different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different faith backgrounds, and saying, you know, we're one in our humanity.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I agree. That's a great message.
Yeah.
Well, that is it for tonight. Coming up tomorrow, She's Been Parched and Redeemed. Those are the titles of two remarkable books by Heather King. I'll talk with her about her amazing journey into the Catholic Church, a journey that included divorce, alcoholism, and even abortion. We have that and more tomorrow. Until then, I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.